So, yesterday, anyone who's seen the previous video will know. If anyone has seen this. But I was talking about the social credit score. Today we're going to touch on another topic. Shadow banning, gang stalking, and psyops. Now it's known that the Central Intelligence of America, or CIA, has carried out not only presidential assassinations, the FBI as well, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, has in its own fair share of assassinations in the United States as well. Dr. Martin Luther King seems to have been assassinated by the feds, in the JFK by the CIA. And who knows just how deep the corruption, the murder, all of that goes. But today, it's evolved. They don't have to kill you anymore. They can just shadow ban you, gang stalk you. And it's hard to really say who's actually in on it. Perhaps everyone, perhaps no one. Because the nature of these groups, whether they be known publicly, such as the Central Intelligence of America, the National Security Agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and law enforcement and the military complex, right? It's not designed to maintain law and order. That's a lie that they sell you on. The whole thing is just designed so that the powerful, the old money, the legacy can be maintained. And that goes against the natural order of things entirely. And it must be uprooted and upended, turned upside down and burnt to ash. We've been promised a fire because water didn't do the job. And it's quite funny that people will grow so desperate, frightened, as we, the few, that choose to leave behind established order, because they're so dependent on it that they literally have no identity without it. I think about it myself and how my identity has been tied to the world and what an identity even is. You're told that you have to do X, Y, and Z, when in fact you don't have to do anything. See, something that I've grown to appreciate lately, in the rare instances, and thankfully I can actually hear from the comfort of my apartment. I'm going to be homeless pretty soon, so it's going to be something that I'm going to be hearing everywhere, because I'm leaving behind everything. I'm abdicating everything. And here's the funny thing. They're going to say, oh, but he never asked for help. If I have to ask for help, it's not yours to give. The only one you have to ask is God. Now, I don't mean the Christian, the Jewish, the Islamic, or any other pantheons God. I'm talking about the God, as Bill Murray would put it. All things, nature, me, you, everything and everyone else. And if it's not obvious to you yet, it will be soon. But then again, I'm probably not fit to really prophesize, make such wild statements, Because honestly, what do I know when I know nothing, and I could very well be mentally unstable and ill to the point where I am now just a complete and utter crazy person. Nutter, as the British so eloquently put it. But that's neither here nor there, because really at the end of the day, what they want is control, because it's human nature. Well, it's nature to fear what you don't understand, not just human. Because in my, again, rare instances where I leave the house, I love to throw fruits and vegetables out for the critters nearby to eat. And in spite of my every effort to zen out, or maybe I'm just incapable, like maybe I'm so tightly wound and nervous, and I don't mean like nervous in the typical sense of like, oh, I'm nervous because I'm anxious, but I'm talking about like the instinct to just annihilate everything. Because again, I believe the African proverb is, the child that's outcast by the tribe will burn the village down for the warmth. And that's all that's really like inside me anymore. Not the destruction of the world, but of the human civilization itself. Tear it down and burn it away and build something new in its place. Of course, gotta heed the lessons learned from the failures, because that's all human civilization is: catastrophic failure. We're at each other's throats to the effect where people don't even get a joke anymore. Like yesterday, I'm helping someone at work, and then they come in for, this new popular game that's out. The guy behind him comes up after I help him and says, I want the same. So I say, yep, of course, nothing's original under the sun anymore. And then after, of course, everything I said, this guy just couldn't take it. Of course, he was trying his best to keep it cool and comprehend the situation, but I guess he lacks the tact and sense of humor to understand a simple joke. That is the world we're dealing with now. You all traded freedom and liberty for security, so you've reversed to being slaves. Slaves to a system that is as cold and pragmatic as the people behind it. Doesn't care. It doesn't care about how you feel. It only cares about one thing: what can you produce? How can you enrich them and stay poor all the while? How can they deplete you of your precious time and energy so that you can't do anything? That's the world that you live in, that I live in, that we all live in. And I'm leaving it all behind. And again, as I said earlier, they're going to say, oh, but he didn't ask for help. Oh, I did. I asked for help from the people that actually care to give it. Not because I had to ask, but because I needed and I asked. Because I knew that they wouldn't help. It sucks that my paranoia and general madness, as it were, doesn't really permit me to think that or even accept that people actually truly care for me. Because as a human being who's mastered the art of the discard, that is to say, completely and utterly energetically cutting off other people, I know very well what that toll is on me with respect to having mastered that. Once I've cut the trash out, just did what you do with trash. You take it to the fucking dumpster and you just dump it all out. It's been freeing and liberating. But of course, there's a recoil to it, as is the case with all things, right? There can be no action without an equal and proportionate recoil, consequence. called causality. It's one of the many laws of nature that we can't do anything about. I've been called, I don't even believe the word in English is apathic. Like, basically people have called me, like, said that I lack empathy or sympathy. How is that possible? It's the very nature of the human condition is to empathize and sympathize, especially with other people. It's why we're so biased towards what looks like us. It's why hate and persecution persists, because people have now weaponized that. All is me. Look, man, it's so fucked and beyond any way of bouncing back that ultimately we should just let it go. Change is the only guarantee. Which is kind of funny, right? Like, because the idea of change is that nothing remains the same. So how can it be the only thing that's consistent? Doesn't consistent imply, isn't implicit in the very word, some form of perpetual form, like assume some type of position, and that's all it is for all time. But that's not the case. Yeah. It is what it is. But let them say what they want to say, because that's just the nature of the animal. It's going to speculate. It's going to create narrative and weave and spin story of what was. You don't know me any more than I know you. No one does. And that's one of the biggest challenges of the human condition. This solipsistic thing where you can't really tell what's real outside of you. That's where faith comes in. And when people no longer possess good faith, all they have is skepticism, doubts, prejudices, fears, because they refuse to become familiar with that which they don't know. What do you expect but hate to be born out of that fear? Resentment. What do you expect, huh? I'm amused and amazed continually by this situation. You know, it's like kids to enter their schools and shoot their peers in an act of, for lack of a better word, to appropriate a made-up word, angerous rebellion. It's like adults to become monsters, serial killers, rapists, thieves, and liars. And that's all of us. It's just the expression of it that changes from person to person. To what degree is a person a monster? The inverse is equally true. To what degree is a person a savior? You see, what we highlight as we think, we become. And what we focus on is what we highlight. You're all highlighting the broken differences between us all. instead of what? Highlighting the very things that which make us human. You commodify the human being and you expect what to happen? Pareto put it best, 80-20. 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Shouldn't it be 100% of the people working together towards the 100? Whatever benefits them and grows them, enables them to retain some modicum of peace and stability. But the whole thing is coming down like a house of cards, and we didn't have to do a damn thing, but simply play our role in the machine. All systems that which are not maintained, that are not improved, that do not adapt, are doomed to failure and collapse. And of course, extinction. Now, I had hoped that I wouldn't have to wait much longer for that fire. I personally won't start it. I refuse. I'm not gonna lower myself to your level. I'm garbage, but I'm not that kind of garbage. You do you, boo. I do me. But we'll see. You value things that are tantamount to false idols. You only listen to the beautiful and rich. I'm not saying you should be listening to the ugly and poor. But all things considered, you shouldn't be listening to anyone else other than yourself. Listen to everything, of course, but possess the wit. It's funny because, again, it's called common sense, right? But it's anything but common. It's probably the most rarefied aspect of the human condition, especially today. We've grown weak, soft, in the wake of a great revolution of comfort. We were so desperate to escape starvation, thirst. Again, all byproducts of what? Us, ourselves. Because in nature, there is no scarcity. In nature, there is only the cycle of life, as it were. But some people along the way fell off the wagon. They got a taste of power and abundance in excess, and it completely and utterly destroyed them. Their humanity is far gone. They are no more human than the very AI and algorithm and robots that they create. I'll talk about taking a God complex too far. Only a human could do such a thing. At any rate, just wanted to get on here and speak to absolutely no one, because that's what I'm talking to. That's who I'm talking to. You take it however the fuck you want. Or not at all. Again, AI, the algorithm, and of course, the people behind it all. People such as myself will not be heard because it doesn't serve their plan, their agenda, whatever their motives are. To that I say, fuck you all. The fire's coming. Not from me, not from you, but from all, from God. Because nature, as it were, didn't put anyone here to become a lord of a ball of dirt. No. They put us here to look upon that ball of dirt and wonder. And wondering turned to pondering. And therein, we learned that we had the same power that nature has. The power to create and to destroy. And to do with that power as we so choose. It's a shame that most people chose to get high on their ego, on the most superficial of all things. I frankly don't get it. I don't. Because again, when you are, as the Joker says, right, working the plan, I believe the line in the film is, if you tell everyone that a truckload of people will be blown up tomorrow, nobody cares. Because it's the plan. Now, when you go and just turn your back on society, cut people off unexpectedly, without warning, everybody loses their fucking mind. I'm done being anything other than what, who, why, when, and where I want to be. Y'all can take your civilization, choke on it, and die. Because it's all you have. A lie told and sold to you by people who look to you as nothing more than today, numbers on a spreadsheet, today still, and for unfathomable eons, as fodder for the meat grinders of war and of labor, all so they can sit in their palaces but I'm the one that has no empathy or sympathy. Look around at civilization. The number of homeless folk is growing and growing, and they treat homelessness, and of course there are many homeless people. They're just as ill as the very people in homes, in palaces, because they're so disturbed and perturbed by the world that it's impeding their energy from coalescing, coming to center. And so they struggle. But I'm pretty confident that at least 20%, 2080, right? Perfectly happy. I love that laughing bird. You guys probably didn't hear it, but near here I have a laughing bird. It's my favorite bird chant. I'm always laughing. It's the funniest thing. But again, pretty confident there is a good number of people that are now happier having left civilization behind in their homelessness, right? They just reclaim their freedom and liberty. That's what I'm about to do. And for the little while that remain in this civilization, in this society. Again, I didn't particularly see much of Jared Leto's Joker nor care for it. But as I said, we live in a society. So y'all who choose to live in a society, Do yourselves a favor. Just remain blissful, ignorant. It's happier for you that way. It will be easier for you that way. And you probably have it the best, all said and done. Although, from the position of somebody who's awakened to the system and broken free, you are the worst. Because you're so caught up in the deception, in the illusion, you will literally fight to defend it. Stay a slave. But again, I'm the bad guy. I lack empathy or sympathy. You people have no balls, no courage. You lack humanity. Because to be human is to be courageous, to be brave, to be bold, to step into the unknown. To encounter death with a smile. Not because it liberates you, but because it's our oldest friend. Opposite life. You think that you would somehow polar opposites. Shows you how truly feeble of mind, truly ignorant, the depth and scope of your stupidity. But of course I'm wrong, right? The right way is to go to work, as I've been doing my entire life up until now, and be the best that you can be. As one of my favorite YouTubers so eloquently mocks the whole House of Cards, when talking about like the entertainment complex, namely Disney and Star Wars. And if he sees this one day, I hope that he's proud of my interpretation of him. But to go to work and be the bestest ever. Fuck you all. I hope that when the fire comes, that the burning sensation doesn't cease until the last of your breath of life leaves you, so that you can have the suffering and the misery amplified by it to a point where all you do is beg for death to release you, to take you, because you were given life, and instead of living it, you just existed. Existing is not living. Living is being the shepherd, being the builder, not for vanity, not to erect palaces of gold, cities of diamond, but so that people can come and go and enjoy and rejoice and play and be free. Think about this for a second, and I'm going to leave you with this. The whole apparatus of civilization is reliant on the lie of scarcity, sold to you by way of what? Competition. This person is better than that person because they do X, Y, and Z. This TV is better than that TV. This phone is better than that phone. Really? Form and function. What's the form of a telly? Today, rectangular. Long ago, more of a square. What's its function? It's a window. I mean, it's high sorcery, really, at the end of the day, as it's been appropriated by the establishment, right? To drain you of your ability to actually go out and do anything by sucking your attention and focusing it. And what do they focus on these days? Murder, death, misery, poverty, pain, and suffering. So that you can be so terrified of those things that you think that that's all that there is in the world. So that you have to fight desperately, claw your way tooth and nail for something better. Wealth, prosperity, beauty. God does have a sense of humor. He does. She does if you're a woman. Because God is in all things, all of us. Just put us here for this, to experience it, to stand in awe of its infinite splendor. Whether it be on a planet such as Earth, full of life, or even on a barren desert of Mars, and in the fires of the sun, and in the void and emptiness of space. That's why when people come to me, like, oh man, you're religious, you X, Y, and Z denomination. I'm like, no, bitch, God don't need you to go to no fucking church to seek no fucking religious leaders. They're just peddling something, selling you something so that they have favor, but not with what matters, not with God. Favor amongst themselves. A general, of course, there are exceptions, right? But a general isn't a general because he looks upon the people, whichever his people, right? Because there's gonna be a general opposite of him, the other side, right? You gotta have two to fight. That's why we've created like this foolish fucking idea that humans are various like races, because then we can be racist. We can make an enemy out of that which does not look like us. Then we can play the game of war and be generals. Oh, I protect mine. Really? You protect yours, or you protect what looks like you? And now, of course, places such as America and Latin America, not so much Africa, Asia, and Europe, although in Europe, a little bit more like America, where ethnic groups, as we evolved and we wandered the plain, settled and became homogenous. Now the homogeneity is diversity in places such as America, right? And look at the chaos that that's creating. We all don't look like. So people have issues serving that which does not look like them. Now we're weaponizing gender. Now we're weaponizing identity. Maybe the fire is y'all killing each other down to the last. One final great old ocean of blood spilled for what? Because I want to be the bestest ever. I'm special. So I mean, if God gave me the power, I would take the healthy people and you'd be slaves to serve the people who are unwell, the broken, the real heroes of this world. Because that's all people should do, serve one another. But when the perfectly able choose to let their vanity be what drives them, it's no longer about the other. It's all me, me, me. And the other becomes a means to an end. The end being the grandiosity and the aggrandizing of your ego. Ask yourself, who's the villain? And I tell you, Go look in the mirror. I do it every day. I know very well how awful I am. As an artist who has no shame and is unabashed, I've explored and seen everything. The only thing I refuse to look upon is pedophilia. Or actual, unless the news or the internet shows me, scenes of graphic murder, especially massacres. Growing up, last bit here. Growing up in 1997, I'll never forget this. Something will stick with me for a long, long time. Because it's something that I'm about to probably face. They're gonna send their guns, their men with the guns after me and my kin. But growing up in Brazil, in the state of Pará, on the edge of the Amazon, in 1997, there was an infamous massacre, and one that seems to have been so obscured from memory, hidden from memory, that outside of that pocket of time, and it's funny because again they weaponize it, right? The murder as entertainment, so that your energy can be depleted, you can continuously live in fear. And this is something that I thought that they'd probably be using a bit more. But in the Pontal of the Paranapanema River, right, which is the river delta kind of in my state, during the crisis, which remains in the area to an extent, of homelessness, but we call them Sem Terra, meaning because Brazil's a fucking massive country. These are the people there without land, right? Sem Terra translates as without land. Land you call their own, because they don't descend from some noble Spanish, Dutch, or Portuguese house whose extended families have diversified their wealth and privilege down to the present. And that's really the system in a nutshell, right? So these people were basically just out in these farms claiming a plot of land for their own that was not theirs, because somebody else has a deed to that land. So what did the military and the police do to evict them from that land? They refused to budge, so they shot them all to death. I don't remember the exact number, but it was in the teens to more. I can't remember, I'm sorry. I should have perhaps researched. The stream of consciousness is all I can do. I don't like to sit here and plot out what am I gonna say, because I'm not a robot. I don't need a script, I'm not you all. And, you gotta laugh because the alternative is to cry about shit like this. But they massacred them all. And to this day, no one knows who was responsible for the massacre. Was it the landowner? Was it the state? Or was it even simpler than that? Was it so localized that it was really down to the armed men and women? Well, men, because at the time, I don't even think there were women in the armed forces. That's a new thing. It's a new convention. Women doing things that men used to do. And women, do yourselves a fucking favor. Don't go down the same path that the men have. Don't adopt the brutality. You're our mothers. Mothering is about love, not murder. Not even for the fathers. But I digress. Don't adopt this dogmatic way of treating each other as nothing more than fodder for the slaughter. It's time we let the rivers of blood dry up, because if we don't, we're just going to continue filling them until those rivers run into each other and overflow and overflood, becoming oceans of blood. And there can only be one ocean of blood, the final one. Or is it an ocean of fire? Maybe the blood is the gasoline for said fire. I don't know. But at any rate, if you actually have a modicum of common sense, again, in spite of the word common being the root there, it's anything but, it's rarefied. it's not untenable. You can develop it. You can grow common sense. Do yourself the favor of doing just that. And start observing the energies around you. Not the people, the energies around you. What are they doing truly? What's the motive for their energy to be the way it is? Because in the context of existence, there seems to lie a fundamental duality to all things. And it's negative and positive. Which pole are the people around you taking? And make no mistake, even the saints have for shadows devils, much the way that the devils have for shadows saints. The devil and God aren't two separate things. That's just a product of religion that they sold to us all, making us believe that there is a good force that cares and nurtures, and that there is a bad force that destroys. Those are the same thing. Because before creation must come annihilation. And wherein creation precedes annihilation, annihilation follows. So keep on working on that immortality project and see how far that takes you. Like I tell people, because I do work with electricity and electronics, when the sun at last looks down on humanity, that could be the fire too, and sees nothing but greed, sin, lust, vice, father killing son, daughter killing mother, sibling killing sibling. It can just snap and a mass coronal ejection, or coronal mass ejection, CMEs, coronal mass ejection, will cripple everything we have grown so dependent on. Like this telephone, like your telephone. To paraphrase Bane from The Dark Knight Rises, I know, right? I'm on a Dark Knight joke, kick here. When it is done and civilization is ashes, then you have my permission to die.